Good morning. I'm Nick from Defined Life. This is our regular Monday morning live session. I'm coming to you an hour earlier than normal. I'm coming to you at 9 o'clock today because I have a busy day. I want to make sure I get this in, and I don't want to have to rush through it if people have questions or want to talk through any of the stuff we talk about today. Uh, so today, I really want to talk about the difference between a to-do list mentality and a priority mentality. There's a subtle difference with how we approach each day, where we place our time and attention. But I want to get into that. We'll talk about it here in a little bit, in a couple of minutes. The main purpose of it is to really do the things that are going to make us happy in life, not the things that are going to make us happy in the moment, but make us happy long term. The real investment in our own lives. So, with that said, as I wait for people to hop on and say good morning here, um, I don't know about you, but it has been hot in Pittsburgh where we are. We're talking mid 90s. I think today is going to go into the 90s, but it's been really sunny. Not a whole lot of rain, and the grass and shrubbery is starting to feel it. I'm not, I haven't, I'm not much of a grass watering kind of guy. And thankfully, we have a lot of trees that provide some shade throughout the day because some of my neighbors that don't have as many trees have just brown grass. I've kind of given it a little bit of watering here and there in the morning, trying to keep it healthy or at least a little bit green. But overall, it's a great time to go outside. It's a great time for the kids to go outside and swim. If anything, in this current situation, if we're going to be stuck at home, um, you know, at least we have nice weather that we can go outside and enjoy it, and it's not just raining or just you know bad the way it normally is here in Pittsburgh. But so how are you preparing for this fall? I know there's a lot of debate about what can reopen, how bad this is going to get, what we're going to do with school. There's a lot going on, and I think it's very important for us to really pay attention to where we're spending our time right now and what we're doing to prepare just in case this gets worse. It has not really shown any signs of getting better. And regardless of what the reason is, for ourselves, we have to make sure we're doing what we need to do to be ready. So that involves, if you feel like you need to stock up on a little bit of food just to minimize the amount of times you go out, if you need to shore up your finances, stop spending money on things maybe you don't even use. If you have like any kind of monthly reoccurring subscriptions that you're not using anymore, if you have any extraneous expenses, a lot of people have tightened up on this stuff already, but maybe we started loosening it again. This might be something we have to pay attention to. Do we have a little bit of a nest egg in case something happens from a job perspective to an economy? We're looking at shifting our retirement accounts into something a little bit safer, just assuming that maybe the current uh, stock stock market situation might tumble. We're kind of looking to maybe be a little bit more conservative in that area. So, whatever the current situation might be for you, look at the lay of the land right now. If you might even need to stock up on medications again, the way that people did in the beginning of this. So, look at the lay of the land, see what's important for you, and if something happens, the worst case scenario, whatever that worst case scenario is for you, project that out and what do you need to do now? What can you be doing now to prepare for that worst case scenario? So we'll be here for you, every day. We're in the user group. I'm here with you on the videos every week. If you ever have any questions, if you need any assistance with using this process to the best of your ability, please let us know. We're here to help. And this process can help you through any of these stressful times. We talked a lot about it in the spring. That when you focus on staying centered, focus on what's important, it can really help you. you know, keep in focus, and keep your mental health and your sanity, I guess, to put it bluntly, as you're going through a goofy time like this. All right, so today I figured it was apropos to read from the Do One Thing Every Day That Inspires You journal. This we do have this on our website too. We normally read from this one, the Do One Thing Every Day That Centers You journal, but I wanted to do this one today, just given the topic what we're talking about, having the to-do list mentality or the priority mentality. So I'm going to randomly pick a page here. All right, so what I want is to draw inspiration only from the truth. My qualifications for this important role include a large head, an enormous nose, disappointment in love, and expectations of ill health. And this person's name, Nagaub Mahfouz, I'm guessing is how you say that name. So again, I'm going to read this again. What I want to draw inspiration What I want is to draw inspiration only from the truth. My qualifications for this important role include a large head, an enormous nose, disappointment in love, and expectations of ill health. I guess that quote actually makes a lot of sense. Aside from the him being funny about his facial features, disappointment in love. I mean, you can expect that to happen, and you can expect ill health eventually, right? Might be now, might be right now. I guess current situation, we might expect it sooner rather than later. But at some point, we're going to run into something, like me and my ankle or my heel. I didn't expect it, but I could expect at some point that something like that was going to happen and knock me down. That's why we want to be best prepared right now. So the prompt for today is describe your qualifications as a writer. So describe your qualifications as a writer. And that's interesting. That's a interesting prompt. The next one, just going to go to the next one. Everyone wants to be Cary Grant. Even I want to be Cary Grant. And that's a quote from Cary Grant. Name the person or people you want to be. So, interesting. Do one thing every day that inspires you. So, all right. So, listen, I want to get into this, the topic for today, which is the to-do list mentality. And that's bad. The to-do list mentality is not good. The to-do list mentality is just writing down all the things that you need to do, from a chore standpoint, or just just all the stuff in life, and just writing it all down, and then just doing all of that, um, and then waking up the next day and doing the same thing all over again. That is not the goal with Define My Day. That should not be anybody's goal, in my opinion. That is not the way we want to live life. Our goal with Define My Day is to help you create space for something that really moves you forward, something that changes your life, something that you are really proud of accomplishing. And so we don't want to wake up every day and just be at the mercy of what is expected of us, of the responsibilities and the things that are thrown at us. We don't want to be in that reactive mode. We don't want to be just checking things off. We need to create in our mind a hierarchy of things that need to get done, and that is the goal that we're trying to lead you toward with Define My Day, to help you figure out what's important, what's truly important for you in life to accomplish. So, with that, the way that Define My Day is laid out is that we are looking forward to where we want to go. We have exercises in the videos that we've posted in the past where you're looking to the things that you want to accomplish, whether they're in line with your values, in line with some achievement you want to have in life, this place that you want to be, this ideal place that you want to be, this vision you see yourself, and connecting the actions down the line to the point where you get to today, where you can take action today to move to be that person, right? And so, how do we do that? How do we connect, the things we do today with where we want to go? Because if we don't spend the time doing that, we're on a road, and we're just sort of walking down the road, and we're not paying attention to the signs, and we're not taking the turns we need to take. We're just sort of walking, hoping we end up someplace where we end up happy. And that just it's not going to happen if you just pick a random road and start walking, with no destination in mind. Yeah, I mean, it might be exciting, and some people do that. It could be exciting, but a lot of times, you might end up someplace you don't want to be. You don't want to walk off a cliff. You don't want to walk into a river. You certainly, sometimes there's certain neighborhoods you might not want to walk into. You don't want to walk into a freeway, right? You have to know where you want to go in order to map out your route to get there. And then you need to constantly be checking the directions. You constantly need to be checking out, you know, okay, I want to go here. In order to do that, I need to make this left turn. I need to go here. I need to do this. I need to accomplish this. And we need to be constantly checking that out. We need to constantly be looking at this place we want to go and bringing it back to the actions we're doing today. And those actions, look, we have chores, right? We need to do the laundry. We need to do the yard work. We need to clean up the house. We need to do things. I get those things sometimes appear on my daily priorities. Sometimes they don't get done and they need to get done and they get put on my daily priorities. It happens. It happens to all of us. But that should not be a daily reoccurring theme. We should not see, we don't want to have like chores be our priorities. That's not going to take us anywhere, right? And so you want to create space, and knowing that those things have to get done, right? But again, they're not priorities. They're classified as to-do list items. We want to create a space where we can take time to sit down and do the thing that's most important for us. Whatever that might be for you: career progression, education, time with relatives, relationships, whatever you need to work on, whatever is going to make you truly happy down the road. That thing that's going to, that component of that most important, that most happy version of yourself in the future. Don't get caught up in the daily grind, so much so that you end up in a destination that you don't want to be. Okay. So, in looking at the Find My Day process, we're taking it in monthly chunks, right? We're taking it in 4-week chunks, and we're looking at this: where I want to go. What are the few things? What are my goals this month that can get me to this place I want to go, right? So, it could be income, it could be a relationship goal, it could be an education goal, whatever. It's personal to you. It could just be your overall health. And so every day a priority is going to be your overall health, and you have components of that overall health goal. And you still are doing your chores, you're still doing the things, you're still working your job, you're still doing all of the other things. But in all of that stuff, we're bringing out these couple of important things that this month, this is my goal. So regardless of what all this other stuff does, or whatever impact all of this other stuff has on me, these are the things. These are the few things that I am going to get done this month for me. And when I'm done with it, I'll clearly be able to say I moved my life forward, and I'm going to do it again next month, either by building on this progress or shifting my attention to something else. So, we have that monthly goal. We bring it into weekly chunks, and in the weekly chunks, every day we have this stuff. Using the health thing for an example, because I think everybody has health on their mind. If you have, you might have a weight loss goal. You might have, for me, I have a combination of things. I have a weight loss goal, but I also have a healthy eating goal and an amount of times I exercise goal. So my overall monthly goal might be, I usually have two. I have a weight, a number that I want to reach, but then I also have the number of times that I exercise in a month as a goal. So one's a leading indicator, one's a lagging indicator. So the leading indicator means that I will exercise 20 times, right? And so that I know when I do that, the results come at a later time. The later thing would be the weight change. So every day Not every day. Some days other priorities take priority, but every day you're going to see me on my priority list. It's usually priority 2 or 3. It's not that it's that in order, but it's just the one that's always there, right? And so I put in there me, exercise today, eat well, and then I'll have meditate or read or something like that. But other times, like especially on the weekend, it might just be relax, decompress, something like that, right? And every day, it might seem repetitive, but every day it's there, every day, unless I have a buildup of other things that need to take priority. But it all leads to whatever my milestone for the week was, which would be, exercising 5 times in the week. So I should have seen as a priority exercise, you know, 5 times this week, right? Five. I should have seen it in 5 instances during the week, and then at the end of the week, if I reached my milestone of exercising 5 times, then I met my milestone. And then for the month, my milestone of exercising 20 times for the month. If I've met my milestones, I've met my goal for the month for that. And you can break down anything like that. If you're looking at career progression, you can break down, if you really take time to think about it, you see the components of a career progression. It could be studying, it could be doing a little bit of extra work, it could be having discussions with your boss, it could be anything. Same thing with relationships. Relationships, my goal would be I want to improve the relationship with my spouse. Milestones might be 2 date nights, quiet time together, taking walks together 5 times a week. And then every day, your goal or your priority is a walk. It's that simple. It's that simple. But I don't want, like, that walk could be more important to you than doing laundry or whatever chores that you might have listed on your to-do list. And what happens is we get so caught up in our list of things we do, we continuously forget to take that walk, right? And then the next thing you know, you're 2 months down the road or 2 decades down the road, and you never took that walk, or you didn't take it enough times. And then you're in a relationship where you're so far apart that it almost seems irrecoverable, right? So we want to make sure that we're focusing on the little, really important things. It can be incredibly simple. It doesn't need to be like exhausting work. It's just the really important things that need to happen today, not the list of things that need to happen today. The really important things that need to happen today. And if those important things are truly aligned with where we want to go in life, we should feel that progress every day. And as we journal it in the evening, we talk about to ourselves, we talk about how we did, what we did, how we feel about it. Did we mess things up? Could we do better tomorrow? All these things, all these thoughts, these just free form thoughts that you have, that you put out on your piece of paper. That helps your brain digest all of the things going on. It helps you bring some clarity to the end of your day. And then tomorrow you have a little bit better perspective, and hopefully you keep moving forward. And if you imagine taking that walking with your spouse thing, if you walk with your spouse, 5 times a week, imagine how different that might be. The conversations that you could possibly have during that walk, the better health that you're both going to have from that walk. Like that one little thing could have a dynamic impact on the rest of your life. That's the kind of thing we're talking about with this. I'm not talking about I did the dishes today. I'm not talking about I went grocery shopping today. I'm not talking about, like, that's not the stuff that is a priority. That is not a priority. It may be a priority every so often as it just becomes like this important thing, like, oh, I put it off for 3 days. I need to get it done, right? I get it. But that is not what should be there every day. It needs to be the stuff that moves you forward. And again, it doesn't have to be huge. I'm going to say this 100 times. It doesn't need to be huge. It doesn't need to be I ran a marathon today. It doesn't need to be I did this grandiose thing for my spouse. It doesn't need to be, I went to work 3 hours early and stayed 5 hours late. That doesn't need to be it. It can be as simple as I walked with my spouse. My goal is a better relationship with my spouse. In order to do that, I'm going to walk 20 times this month. And my milestones for this week are 5 walks with my spouse in the morning. And my goal for today, my priority for today, maybe the priority says better relationship. And task number 1 is take that walk. Task number 2, go to bed together. Whatever it might be, eat dinner together, right? And then every day, you can say that every day. It can be repetitive. Don't get bored with the important things that you need to do. Don't feel like you need to have this amazing amount of variety. Of course, you want to have like new and fresh things to do, but a lot of times big things happen in the little spaces, the little boring spaces. Don't neglect that. And so give yourself like look at all the things that you have going on today. What's the one area you really want to improve? And what's the simple thing you can do today above anything else? That priority that needs to get done today to move you forward. What is the one thing for you? What's your priority mentality? How can you develop that priority mentality? What's the every day the one thing that you can look at and say, I need to work on this. I need to work on this. Even if it only takes 10 minutes, even if it takes 2 hours, I need to work on this to make a real change in my life. So shift the mentality from I have this stuff to do, I need to do all this stuff, to this is the one thing that I need to do today. And if nothing else gets done, I'm going to get this thing done. That's the priority mentality. That's the kind of mentality we're trying to shift you into gaining with the Define My Day process. Brenda, thank you. I appreciate you joining me. I feel bad. I know, like, I'm thinking about, being here early, and I know some people are going to miss this live, but I wanted to make sure we got it in. And I'm glad it resonated with you. And I'm going through this process too. I have to remind myself of this all the time. And, my awareness of it is growing and changing every day. It's easy to get caught up in different thought patterns and in feeling certain things are more important than others. But this constant reflection and constantly looking back on it and trying to grow is incredibly important. And it helps us figure things out, because if we just neglect if we neglect paying attention to it, eventually it's going to bite us in the butt down the road. So Brenda, thank you. I appreciate you, your comment there. Thank you very much I'm glad I could help you out. And a lot of times people struggle, with, really figuring out like what's really going to make them happy. What's really going to get me, how can I change the situation I'm in? And it's hard. It's hard. And a lot of times I observe, and I'm sure I've done it myself, maybe not as aware of it as I'd like to be, but I observe other people doing things in direct opposition to what they state is going to make them happy. Or they're saying that, I want happiness, I want peace, I want calm, and yet they're the ones causing the disruptions, right? Or they're the ones causing the drama. Their actions aren't lining up with their stated goal, like what they really want. And I think, it's an awareness thing. It's a pattern of thinking thing. And they're just not comprehending the cause and effect of what they're doing today and how it leads to the situations they find themselves in. And so, how do we change that, right? How do we change it? And we all go through it. I know we all go through it, but how do we change it? And the answer to that is by every day touching base with what we did today and how it aligned with where we're going, right? I got in an argument with so and so, and it made me really unhappy. I'm upset. That person's upset. So why did I engage in that argument? How could I have handled it differently? How could, like, what are the things that I can choose? Should I have even gotten in the argument in the first place? Like, why did that discussion even start? Was it worth it? Did it knock me off so far off my priorities that it probably should have just avoided it. I should have said, you know what, that person's going to be, they're themselves, and they're going to cause some problems, and I'm not going to engage in it, right? See that on social media all the time. People just jump in and start going, rah, right? And if they just do it to argue with no real sense of purpose, then all it does is screw up your mindset, right? So you have to realize, I do it a lot. Like when you go to a news article and go into the comments and see some of the stuff that people post and the arguments and the yelling and back and forth, yelling through typing, right? The back and forth, and I'm looking at it going, and even I've even stopped myself making a comment because I know it's just not going to make me happy, right? It's just going to bring me into this discussion that's not going to take me to a good place. But you can see these people, if you're observing them, and you see they're getting so angry about some random person on the internet and their opinion, and what are they missing in their own lives? Like what are they what aren't they addressing because they're so emotionally involved in this conversation that really doesn't matter, right? And I think that just about every time, like, they get so angry, and what in their own life are they missing because they're distracted by this, right? I know that's not to-do list mentality, but it's something that, like, we have to keep turning every moment. We have to keep asking ourselves, is this taking me where I want to go? Is this taking me where I want to go? You have to keep asking yourself that, because if the answer keeps coming back no, we need to make some serious changes. Good morning, Sherry, and good morning, Vicky. I needed to hear this as well. Good. I'm glad. I yeah. Thank you. That's give me some reassurance. This was actually I had a different topic planned today, but really I was looking through a lot of the things that were being discussed in the user group, and I thought this was very important because I saw a theme that kept coming up in that people were talking about their priorities, and their priorities were very just got to get things done type of priorities, and I understand that we have that, like, that needs to happen, but it's not what I want you to focus on. I want you to focus on that really important thing for you. It doesn't have to involve a huge life change. Like I said, it's a walk around the block with your spouse. It's, exercising for 30 minutes in a day. It's spending, for me, one of the things for me is spending time with my kids, right? And it's actually become more of a discipline for me than a priority, because I'm trying to make it an everyday. Like, I don't even want to have to think about it. Like, at like 2 o'clock, kids and I are just going to hang out for a while and really talk to each other, right? Um, so like, I don't want you to get stuck into like this. Just, I just need to go to work. I just need to get things done, and I'm just checking things off. That's not the mentality that I want you to have. The mentality, I want you to do those things. That work needs to happen. That's a sidebar thing. That's like where I've started doing that kind of stuff. You have in the to-do list, but I've started doing that kind of stuff on the sidebar over here. If you can see this, it's a little bright. But the sidebar over here is when I start writing down, like, all the checklisty things I need to do, right? Not priorities. So over there is where cooking dinner, running to Home Depot, watering the lawn, sweeping the patio. These are actually real things I have on today's list. Um, you know, uh, Buying eggs, like all the things that show up over here. It all needs to get done. It's all running around and doing things. It's going to take a lot of time. But if I do anything today, I'm going to do the things that show up right here. These are the things. I'm saying this is the most important thing. Shows up much bigger than over on this side of things. So pay attention to that. Still do all those really important things you need to do, but make sure that there are really super important priorities that take precedence over all of it. And those priorities should connect with your overall long-term goals. Okay. The last thing I mentioned quickly, creating space for priorities. Um, and I came across an interesting YouTube video. I'll probably have to share it with you guys. I have to find it again. But there was this kid. He's in his 20s. So there's a guy who travels the world, and you know uh, he creates these films, and uh, uh, it was interesting because he's very focused on being in the present and enjoying the moment. And he was talking about how so many of us are caught up in the future, like they're caught up in the rat race, and just trying to reach that next milestone. And we've talked about that a lot here, right? Like we all think that, like, we're going to work to retirement and then it's just going to magically be okay. And so that idea that we need to be present and enjoy the moment, it seems harder to do that now than ever, especially when we have so many distractions. And I've noticed in myself, and I've noticed in some people around me, that if you just take the moment um, to 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 just do nothing, um, things happen. I notice it a lot with my kids. So my kids will distract themselves all day with their PlayStation, with their iPad, with TV. They will distract themselves all day if I let them. And so, what I started doing as this pandemic started, really, and there was less to do outside, um, I started just creating space, time, where I don't care what you do. I would just tell them, I don't care what you do. I just want you to stay away from anything electronic. And after all the kicking and screaming, things start to happen. Moments start to happen. Discussions start to happen. And when you don't constantly distract yourself, and this is the lesson I take from that, is when you don't constantly distract yourself, um, really cool things happen. You notice things. If I just sit and I just sit in, like, my back porch, or if I'm just sitting in the kitchen and I just look around, I start noticing things like that are out of place, that need to be cleaned up. That, like little projects that I can do, that when they're done, I feel really good about them. Or otherwise, I would just look over it because I'm so busy engaged in this stuff. And with my boys especially, is that I will say, look, like, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to go in the pool. You don't have to play with each other. You don't have to do anything, but you have to be in the backyard. And it's my one son will run through the sprinkler. My other son will read a book. It like different things happen, and then it's funny because once they start doing something like that, they don't want to quit that. My one, actually both of them, they'll start reading, and we'll say, look, you have to read for 15 minutes or half an hour or whatever it is. And once they get into it, they don't want to stop, right? My older son last week, um, in that space, decided he wanted to start walking our dog. Now, our dog hasn't been walked in years, like methodically. We just take her outside, she runs around, that's it. But she remembered how to walk on a leash, and it took her a couple of days, and she picked it up again. But he was out almost every morning last week walking the dog around the neighborhood, and he loved it. Every day he was like, "I'm gonna go walk the dog." And it was just it. I never would have thought to tell him to do that because it's just not something we're in the habit of doing. But because he was sitting around in that space, just thinking, and he looked at the dog and said, "I want to take her for a walk." He sees other people walking dogs around the neighborhood, so he's like, "You know what? I'm going to do that too." And so this thing came out of it where he and the dog are both getting exercise. They're developing a relationship, and you can see that she's listening to him a little bit better now. And it's pretty cool. But that all happens because we allowed the space. We gave it space to happen. And when you give space for thought and to be present and to just kind of look around and be mindful, You pick up on things that you wouldn't normally. If you're constantly down like this, looking at your phone like this, and not paying attention to what's going on around you, not paying attention to your emotions and thoughts and everything, you're just constantly trying to offload them onto a device, uh, bad things happen. Life slips by, life passes you by, um, and we can't allow that to happen. It's dangerous. It's dangerous for everybody around, right? We neglect we neglect so much by doing that, and our relationships fall apart when that happens. So it's something I've become more and more aware of over the past few months as this pandemic has dragged on, and as we've been sort of in our bubble. Um, yeah, that ability to be present is very very important. There was maybe a year ago, there was an Ed Milet podcast where he talked about past, present, and future. I referenced it in a couple of videos, and I thought it was very important. And I'm reminded of that right now as we're talking about this. Is that um, you know, if you worry too much over the past, if you ruminate, you're not moving forward. If you project yourself into the past too often, whether you're reminiscing over good times or fretting over mistakes you've made, if you're spending too much time in the past, you can't move forward, and it will drag you down, and it will lead you to this place of immobility. Uh, and I find he was saying he's always looking to be in the future. He's always looking for people to project him into the future. He's always looking for people that talk to him about what they're going to be doing, not what they're currently doing, if I remember this whole conversation correctly. And I think the important thing about past, present, and future for me is observing the past, understanding the mistakes that were made, and not redoing them, right? Learning, but leaving it there, right? And then properly balancing being in the moment while also moving forward. Because if we get too caught up in either place, if you're too caught up in the rat race moving forward and just accomplishing stuff, then you're never gonna, like, you're always striving for that moment when you can finally go, oh, I'm there. But that place is never there, right? They were just like every moment you get there and you're like, this is it. Like you ever get that, like you get that car, you get that gift, or you get that whatever, you retire and all of a sudden you're like, oh, now what? Right? Oh, I got the car. Great. Now what? Right? So you can't always be looking to the future, because the future, once that moment comes, is never going to be quite as great as what you anticipate. So understanding that, yeah, we have to set goals, and yeah, we have to accomplish things, and yeah, there's to be good purpose and meaning behind the future things. We need to constantly be balancing that with living in the moment, enjoying the moments we have now. Like those goofy little conversations that I have with my boys, the cool little comments and emails that I get from customers. Like for me, in this business, I mean, as I'm always trying to, I mean, we're always trying to, like, we want to be stable, we want to grow, we want to impact more people, we want to, like, there are things that we want to accomplish, there's projects that we want to accomplish in this business. But if I can't really take to heart the comments that we get and the positive impact that we've had on people now, I don't have the fuel to keep going. Like I like it's a it's I wouldn't I wouldn't really understand, I think, the purpose of where we're going if I wasn't able to keep present with what is currently happening with our clients and with the people that are using Define My Day right now. And with my boys, like, time's flying with them, right? Time is flying with them. And, I look at them, it's just some days I step back and look at how tall they're getting and how smart they're getting and how just their facial features are changing and the things we're talking about. And sometimes I notice how much less my older boy wants to spend time with us. And, so I find myself every day catching these moments going, you got to remember this, you got to remember this. And how easy it is to just say, I'll get to you later, we'll do that later. Whatever, if you keep doing that, you keep putting it off. And the next thing you know, they're 18 moving out and the relationship stinks. Hopefully not, but there's a danger there when we're not there every day, not having those conversations. And the same thing happens with our spouses, right? Lynn and I are constantly trying to work on that balance between, being present for each other and moving forward and working and doing things for the house and dealing with other relationships. And, you know, we have to come back to it every day. Like, are we enjoying our times now together? Or are we distracting ourselves with other stuff? And even in the the work, even in whatever work you're doing. I think back to some of the terrible jobs that I had earlier in life, and being in those terrible jobs, I just could not wait until the weekend. I was always looking forward to the weekend. I was always looking forward to vacation. I was always looking forward to when I could be away from my job, and how miserable I was every day going to that job. And that's a terrible attitude that I had, a terrible mindset. And my life was just blowing by. Like I really allowed the early part of my life to blow by because I was constantly looking forward rather than being present in what good I may have had in the moment. And regardless of how crappy that job was, I guarantee there were good things in the moment that I was clearly overlooking because I was so self involved in my misery. I was just so deep into how much I hated it that I was missing all the good things that were going on around me. And it's sad. It is. I wouldn't want that for anybody else. So it's a mindset thing. It's a being present and looking around thing. And there are some bad situations right now, a lot more bad situations for a lot of people than normal. And I think, we can appreciate how bad the situation is while at the same time enjoying what we have. And that's very important. Very important. Good morning, Deborah. Carrie. Yeah, thank you. It is. Yeah, it's life, man. It's life. Um, it's a struggle. Maintaining that balance constantly is a struggle, and it's that I'm going through this the same way you are, right? I'm going through the whole process, the Define My Day process, and I struggle through it in the same way that you are. And it's funny because I saw like a SpongeBob meme. I should have saved it for the broadcast today, but it's this like muscular. I think it's like the starfish. I don't know, but he's like all muscular and he's like, "How I am for my clients," and then like he's got like a nail in his forehead, and the other side of the meme like how I am for myself, or how I handle my own stuff. And it's very true. It's like the plumber always has leaky pipes in his own house type of thing. Is that the plumber's always working on somebody else's projects, and it's hard to work on his own. And that's not how we want to be. That's not healthy at all, especially when you bring it into like personal stuff. But I think it did illustrate the fact that like I am not perfect in this process at all. I am constantly learning. I'm constantly struggling. I'm constantly coming up with like, oh yeah, duh. Like even this whole concept of making space. I mean, like I was so caught up in the accomplishment side of Define My Day for years that this spring, I've been meditating more. I've been focusing more on being present in the moment, especially as I see my kids get older and realizing that time's flying by. Um, like just being with them, and creating that space, that empty space for things to happen. That was like oh my God, I was hard charging for so long. I need to take some time. I need to create this space. And now I think my realization that's happened now in the past week is that, I've been trying to like time block. Like I've been time blocking pretty hard, trying to make sure that I fit everything in. And I've almost become too strict with the time blocking. And I haven't, again, allowed that space for fear of letting it go, for fear of wasting time. And so trying to find this proper balance between, time blocking and getting things done, but also not being so rigid that the relaxation or the open space feels like a chore also. And so balancing that out, it's just that it's me learning how I'm comprehending how I'm going through my day. And but the thing is I could not learn it if I wasn't going through this process. If I wasn't paying attention every day, I can't learn about myself. I can't learn my thoughts and my habits and my awareness or lack of awareness of certain situations. So that's my experience as I've been going through this whole process. It changes every day. Changes every day. It changes either for the worse or for better, depending on how well I'm adhering to the process. To be honest with you. Carrie says, my mental health is all over the place right now. I'm trying so hard to be present as a coping strategy for my depression. I'm sorry you're going through that. I think, let me preface this by saying, I hope you have somebody that you can speak to about it. I think that if you find the right type of therapist, it makes all the difference. I always had a hard time with therapists, and I think the reason why over time is because I felt, there was this, you want somebody to care, I think was my thing. I wanted somebody to really care, and paying somebody to talk to me, it felt disingenuous in that regard, but I was looking at it in the wrong way. Like, I can't pay somebody to care for me, right? I can only pay somebody to help me unpack what I'm thinking about. And I don't think anybody I spoke with for decades, off and on, really was good at helping me unpack much. But I think that if you find the right person that can help you through some things, that is invaluable. The other thing that I think for me, the pervasive thought, the common thread, the common thought that I had, even in the worst of times, was that I can make this better. Like, it's funny because a lot of people would caution me away from, or caution anybody away from this. But, I wasn't trying to place fault on it, but I always thought to myself, there is something in my pattern of behavior that is causing me to think this way. I need to change something. I need to figure out what it is. I didn't even know what it was at times, but I needed to change something to try to improve how I was handling my daily life. And so I was taking responsibility for it without over faulting myself for it. You know what I mean? I don't know if I'm explaining it well, but I wasn't, there was always the thread of hope. There was always that realization that I could change it, that I could fix the situation, right? That I could change my outlook. And, sometimes I went even overboard with it. Sometimes, like I went back and forth as I went forward with it. And even in how I dealt with other people, I had a lot to figure out and a lot to learn. But it was worth it. I made mistakes along the way, but it was worth it. And I think that this process, I was working it even before I came up with it. I was working it in a way, uh, while taking some major detours along the way. And I think that, like, that constant look forward, like the constant, like, trying to look forward and bringing it back to the present, helped me work my way out of it, I guess. Good morning, Janice. Good morning to someone in the Facebook group. Thank you for encouraging empty time. I work for a school district, and our self-care training focused on downtime versus free time. Downtime has to be scheduled. If only I listened to that advice. Thank you for bringing it up today. I needed that. Yeah. So downtime. You know, I find I love that. I think I like that that distinction between downtime and free time. So free time, I think if I'm understanding how you're explaining it there, I'm pretty sure I agree with you. Free time is sort of like time we waste, right? Free time is yet to be designated as something, right? Free time is just sort of out there. Where downtime, we're saying like there's a purpose for this, right? And I think that's the difference you're referencing there. And I really like that. I might have to start using it in that regard, posing it in those two different ways, because you know, we tend to, if we don't pay attention, and I think I talked about it last week. If we don't pay attention, to the time and how we're using it, we tend to do things in our free time that actually drains us rather than refreshing us or rejuvenating us for getting back to work or whatever you want to do. So if we waste our free time, we don't actually have downtime. I have to think that through, but thank you. Kristen says, because we live in a shame based culture, we put it on ourselves to not just see it as our behaviors that need tweaking. Yeah, so if you, I think where you're going with this is that sort of labeling that we do to ourselves and even to other people. We label people as toxic. We label people as whatever, whatever it might be. And some people might earn that label. But a lot of times it's just a behavior. It's a learned behavior that may be bad for us. It may be toxic. But if you, instead of labeling it a certain way, even depression, I've heard that if you look at it, if you don't so much take ownership of it as I am depressed, but shift the perspective a little bit to more of a I am experiencing depressing thoughts, right? And it sort of separates your identity from the thoughts a little bit and helps you observe them from a different perspective. And if you can do that, then you can start to maybe try to understand where they're coming from a little bit more. Um, and it's not easy. I mean, none of it's easy. I think for me, the way I handled depression is that I knew that I needed to make some changes. I didn't know exactly what they were, but that I was in a pattern of thinking that I needed to take steps out of. And I was sort of wandering in the forest for a little while, and I knew the general direction of where I needed to go, and I didn't know exactly the steps I needed to make. I just knew I needed to sort of keep walking in a certain direction, and the more I walked that direction, the clearer it became. The fog lifted a little bit more. Uh, I would say one of the best habits for anybody suffering through depression or that is just sort of like in a funk right now because of all of this stuff going on, or because of any reason, reading was probably the most important thing that I could have done aside from my daily intentions, right? My daily priority planning. The biggest thing I could have done was reading. And I know like somebody's going to say, well, you need 8 hours of sleep because that has a gigantic change on your brain. Other people are going to say, fewer sugars and carbs are going to have a dynamic impact on your brain, gut health, like all this stuff. I know there's a lot of components about being holistically healthy. But for me, as far as changing thought patterns, reading, if you read a good book about whatever topic, whether it's habits, motivation, just about life in general, purpose, if you can find and consistently read a good book, I think that it is the impact is amazing. And for me, even in recent years, as I've found myself in a funk, like I get into a funk for a day or two, or maybe even a week if there's something seriously stressful going on. What I would do is treat an audiobook like it was just sort of like a way to short circuit my thought processes. So if I was feeling bad, and I probably didn't even feel like reading or listening to a book or listening to a podcast, but what I would do is I would use that book as a way to bring somebody into my life that was incredibly positive. And that old adage that you're the average of the five people you hang out with the most. In the absence of having five really good people, you can bring in artificially somebody like that you respect. You could bring in like a Brene Brown, right? Brene Brown's awesome, right? And I would love to be able to talk to her every day or have her in my ear every day. Well, I can listen to one of her audiobooks and bring in, somebody just mentioned shame, right? Didn't we? Yeah, shame based, Kristen, right? Or Kirsten, right? So, if shame is an issue that you would like to better understand, you bring in Brene Brown, and all her work is about shame and being vulnerable, and so if you want to work on that area the way I have, then you bring in Brene Brown every day and listen to an audiobook, and you're absorbing it, like you're just kind of bringing up your average a little bit. If your thoughts are here, you're bringing up your average thoughts to another level by bringing in somebody to talk in your ear, while you're doing the dishes or the laundry or whatever, or just laying in bed and listening to it. I think it's a huge, and it's a great hack to bring some perspective. Um, yeah, I think that it's game changing. Uh, Carrie says, I love the distinction between free time and downtime. We need to rejuvenate. I'll call it the time to recenter. Absolutely. I completely agree. Exactly. Look into Brene Brown. Oh my god. We are on the same wavelength here. Look into Brene Brown's work. Really good books and podcasts to go well with the Define My Day concept. Isn't that funny? All right, so we're definitely talking the same thing here. Yeah, very cool, very cool. And there was, it's funny. There was a thought that I was having, and then I saw that, and it short circuited me a little bit. It'll come back to me. It'll come back to me. I hope. Dr. Weil. I'll have to look up Dr. Weil. Not heard of that person. Being retired is great, but you often don't feel as if you have a purpose. Yes, I exercise daily, take care of my home, gardens, cook, etc. But I would like more purpose. Yeah, and I think a lot of people go through that right now. Go through that after they retire. I had an Uber driver a couple of years ago pick me up. I was going to a lunch, and he picked me up in a like $120,000 car, and I thought, wow, why are you driving Uber? It was my first thought, right? I mean, this is crazy, but I felt like a big shot driving up to the lunch. And he said, I retired and I sat across the dinner table or the breakfast table for my wife for like 3 weeks, and I just thought to myself, I got to get out of the house. And that struck me as being really, it kind of saddened me. Like you work your entire life to get to this place where you can do whatever you want, and now you don't know what to do, so you just drive other people around. And look, if you want to be an Uber driver and that you get something from speaking with people and you enjoy that connection, then that's one thing. But if you're just doing it because you have nothing better to do, that hurts a little bit. That hurts a little bit. So I think that a lot of people do that as they get to retirement, and they really need to take the time to unpack, what's important. Like, what's some amazing thing I could do right now? Realizing that our thoughts and patterns and habits are all pushing us in one direction, and that now to rethink that whole thing makes us unravel really who we are. And you start pulling at things like, why do I do this? Why do I do that? Why do I think this way? And it's like changing the direction of a gigantic ship. We're going in this direction, and now we're just sort of gliding that way, right? Maybe we're not even like pushing ourselves that way. Maybe the motor's off. Maybe we're retired now, right? And we're sort of gliding this direction, but we're realizing like, all right, I'm still doing these things. I'm still, all the stuff you just described, exercising, taking care of your home, gardening, and all this stuff. Like I'm still doing all these actions, but I don't have the sense of like I really want to go here, right? And so for you to really change the direction, all of your thoughts and patterns and habits are this direction. And so for you to turn it and go here takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of thought. And the only thing I can say in order to feel like you have that purpose, I go back to reading. I would read about purpose. Some of Simon Sinek's work about finding your why. Viktor Frankl's books. Whatever you can read to educate yourself on like really exploring who you are. And you might find it's just creating deeper relationships with the people around you. You might find that it's doing work in the community. Maybe it is going back to work. So a lot of times we get so stuck on retiring that we don't realize that working is actually kind of fun. Like especially if you have a job you love. You like going into work. You like doing. You like having the conversations with coworkers. Like everybody looks forward to retiring until they retire, and they're like, oh, I really kind of like that, right? So we don't always have to look at work as a pain in the butt. A lot of times it's actually really good. Hey Amy. So I didn't announce that we were starting early. I apologize for that. Today it's sort of suddenly got busy for me, and I wanted to make sure I got this in. So I apologize for being early, but yeah, and I didn't want to have to rush through the session if I got pulled away somewhere in the 10 o'clock hour. Spontaneous happiness. I'll have to look that up. Yeah, Kathy, you didn't join late. I joined early, so I apologize for being here um, early. But yeah, the replay will be available. You guys will be able to catch it, throughout the day here. But thanks for joining me. I appreciate it. I was so self-conscious as we were going through like the first 15 minutes of this because I felt like I was neglecting the regulars that were going to be here at 10. I felt like I was like, I wish I would have been able to put out an email or an announcement earlier, but I'm sorry I couldn't do that. So yeah, so listen, everybody that commented in here, I appreciate you. Everybody watching that didn't comment, I appreciate you. But if you are out there and you feel like you're just stuck, reach out. Whether you reach out to someone in the user group or reach out to us, shoot me an email. We can kind of discuss through this. I mean, I can't tell you what to do, but I can at least tell you, how I may have approached certain things that have happened in my life. And I guarantee that if you reach out in the user group, there is somebody handling a certain situation very similar to yours. But every day, keep in mind that you don't want to just be checking things off. This is not a to-do list mindset. You should be every day doing one thing that moves you forward. You should be doing one thing that uplifts you in some way. I'm going to grab these last couple of comments here real quick. You like the earlier time? I think I might also. As I'm, looking to jump off here at 10 o'clock, I have a big block of time to get into some of the other stuff that we have going on. And I know like a lot of people at 10 o'clock start time is kind of a gut shot in the middle of their morning, similar to me. Yeah, we might have to explore. Maybe you guys can leave in the comments. Do you like a 9 o'clock time better? I know for West Coast it's tough. 6 o'clock is tough, and I think that's why we did 10 o'clock. Um, but you know, I guess we'll have to feel it out a little bit whether 9 o'clock is better for people or 10 o'clock. We'll see. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. And thank you, Amy, for understanding. I appreciate that. All right, everybody, have a great week. I appreciate you being here with me. This week in the daily morning videos, we're going to be talking about, we're going to talk a little bit about connecting your daily actions to your happiness. We're going to be talking about how to use that daily page that has the couple of lines underneath the daily, the days 1, 2, 3, whatever. And we're going to talk again about blending personal and professional with Define My Day. So look for those videos this week. They're going to be coming out in the mornings every day, Tuesday through Friday. So look for those. I appreciate all of your comments. I appreciate everybody joining me today. Have a great week. Keep moving forward, and I will see you very soon.